To make the shawl, I used 180 grams of this yarn. The recommended needle is 5 millimeters, 6 millimeters knitting needles. I used circular needles, but if you want, you can use straight needles. And scissors. We start making the shawl from the bottom part. We have to cast on 4 stitches. We have to cast on 4 stitches. We have to, on the first stitch, make a knit stitch, lift a stitch on the left needle, work a purl stitch on the same stitch, and a knit stitch on the same stitch. Once we have the 3 stitches on the right needle, we can move the first stitch. Now we have to purl the 3 following stitches together. We have to purl 3 together. And we still have 4 stitches on the needle. Row number 2. We have to work a purl stitch in all the 4 stitches of this row. We have to work 4 purl stitch. Row number 3. We have to start making a purl 3 together. We have to purl the 3 stitches together. And on the last stitch we have to knit, purl, and knit on the same stitch. Knit, purl and knit. We still have 4 stitches on the needle. Now we have to cast on 4 stitches. We have to cast on 4 stitches. Row number 4. We have 8 stitches on the needle, so we have to purl all the stitches and once we have all the stitches we have to cast on 4 stitches. We have to cast on 4 more stitches at the end of this row. Row number 5. On the first stitch we have to knit, purl and knit on the same stitch. And then purl the 3 following stitches together. And repeat the same 2 more times. Knit, purl and knit the same stitch and purl the 3 following stitches together. Row number 6 on the right side of the shawl, we have to work a purl stitch in all the stitches. We have to purl all the stitches. We have to make increases in all the shawl. To make the increase, we have to repeat 4 rows. This is the last row of the repetition. Now I'm going to show you one more time. I'm going to show you again how to make the rows to make the increases. Remember that on the raspberry stitch, in one row we start with the knit, purl and knit, and on the other row we have to start with the knit with the purl 3 together. So on the rows where we have to purl 3 together is where we have to make the increase. Now we have to start with purl 3 together and continue with the repetitions. Knit, purl and knit, purl 3 together, knit, purl and knit, repeating to the end of the row. We finish this row with knit, purl and knit, and now we have to cast on 4 stitches at the end of this row. We have to cast on 4 stitches. On the following row, row number 2 of the repetition, we have to purl all the stitches, starting for the 4 stitches that we had to cast on, and continue with the stitches that we had on the needle. So purl all the stitches, and once we finished the row in the right side with purl stitch, we have to cast on 4 more stitches. We have to cast on 4 more stitches. Row in the wrong side is the row number 3 of the repetition. We started on the row number 1 with purl 3 together, so now we have to start with knit, purl and knit. And then purl 3 together. Now we don't have to make increases, we have to repeat only the knit, purl and purl 3 together to the end of the row. And the last row of the repetition, the row number 4, we have to purl all the stitches. We don't have to make increases now, only purl all the stitches. You have to repeat those 4 rows to have the size that you need. Remember, when you start the row with purl 3 together, this is the row where you have to cast on 4 stitches at the end. This is the first row of the repetition. We have to purl 3 together, knit, purl and knit, repeat the same to the end of the row. And at the end of the row we have to cast on 4 stitches. And the second row of the repetition, the row in the right side, we have to purl all the stitches. We have to purl all the stitches. And once we finish this row, we have to cast on 4 more stitches. We made increases on the previous row and on this one. We have to cast on now 4 stitches. Row number 3 of the repetition, we have to knit, purl and knit. And purl 3 together, repeating to the end of the row. We have to knit, purl and knit and purl 3 together to the end of the row. We don't have to make increases now. And the row number 4 of the repetition, the row in the right side, we have to purl all the stitches. And here you can see the shape of the shawl. I explain one more time how to make the repetition of the 4 rows. We have to start with purl 3 together, and knit, purl and knit, repeating to the end of the row. And on this row we have to cast on 4 stitches at the end of the row. This is the row in the wrong side. Row in the right side, we have to purl all the stitches of the row, and at the end of the row we have to cast on 4 more stitches. This is the last row where we have to make increases, only on the first and the second row. Row number 3 on the wrong side, we have to start with knit, purl and knit, and purl 3 together, repeating to the end of the row. And row number 4, we have to purl all the stitches of the row. Once we have the shawl with the size that we need, we have to bind off all the stitches. We have to bind off on the 4th row of the repetition. We have to purl one stitch, purl the 2nd stitch and bind off, pass the 1st stitch over the 2nd stitch, and continue binding off to the end. Purl one stitch and pass the 1st stitch over the 2nd stitch, and repeat again. Purl one stitch and pass the 1st stitch over the 2nd stitch. Here you can see the original shawl. You start from the bottom part and you have to make increases to have the size that you need, and only you have to bind off all the stitches once we finished. The sizes is 1 meter and 30 centimeters per, from one point to the other point, and from the top to the bottom part 60 centimeters.